This is the story of a bartender. Not just any bartender, mind you. A man who pours drinks with the quiet grace of a predator whose smile holds more secrets than the dark side of the galaxy. A man who built an empire, then walked away. Until two starving girls showed him what was truly worth fighting for. And by the time you're done listening, you'll know why his bar, Murphy's Last Drop, became the only place in the cosmos where even the most feared criminals learned to mind their manners. Because if they didn't, they learned the hard way that peace is a privilege, and some men are just better at war. The air in Murphy's Last Drop hummed with the usual low thrum of illicit deals, desperate hopes, and cheap synthale. Then, the Gathion's head hit the bar, a sickening crack like bone on hardened plastisteel. His lieutenant's arm followed, bending at an angle biology never intended. Kevin Murphy, wiping a pristine glass, didn't flinch. His voice, calm as a grav buoy in still space, cut through the sudden hush. "Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted life forms," he announced, a faint, almost imperceptible tremor of irritation in his tone. "I'm going to need you to step outside for about 2 minutes. Try not to scuff the floor on your way out." The exodus was a masterclass in self-preservation. Senator Len, mid-bribe, slammed his datapad shut. The Scarn assassin, a permanent fixture in his corner booth, snatched his drink and vanished. Even Three-Teeth Tommy, who swore the Yakuza had a permanent watch outside, shuffled out with surprising alacrity. The third Gathion, young, dumb, and reaching for his plasma blade, met the reinforced plasteel window with a force that rattled the entire frame. He slid down, leaving a neon green streak. "Every damn week," Kevin sighed, finally setting the glass down. He hoisted the trio, one by a broken arm, another by a convenient limb, the third over his shoulder like a sack of protein powder. Outside, the designated unconscious troublemaker alcove awaited. The Gathions would wake up, hopefully wiser. Probably not. Kevin returned, mop and bucket in hand. Gathion blood congealed like syrup. He worked with practiced ease, the rhythm of cleaning a familiar meditation. "My apologies for the inconvenience," he announced as the patrons cautiously filed back in. "Next round's on the house." Senator Len, already resettled, eyed him. "Tourists?" Kevin nodded, wringing green sludge from his mop. "Fresh off the transport. Thought they'd make a name for themselves." The Scarn assassin's voice rasped like grinding metal. "Might as well rob a police station. Less dangerous." Three-Teeth Tommy, back on his stool, chimed in. "Cops just arrest you." Kevin resumed his post, polishing another glass. 6 years. 6 years of this routine. Pouring drinks, cleaning glasses, and occasionally reminding people why no fighting in Murphy's was rule number 1. Outside, they could flay each other with rusty spoons. Inside was sacred. Even Victor Draven, who practically owned Grimhold Station security and had a body count in the triple digits, respected the rule. Draven. The thought made Kevin's jaw tighten. The man had been frequenting the bar lately, always with that infuriating, knowing smirk, like a predator toying with its prey. Kevin forced his focus back to the glass, its perfect sheen a temporary escape. 3 levels down, in a part of Grimhold Station even the maintenance crews avoided, Thea pressed her back against a rust-eaten wall. 4 days. 4 days since a real meal. The half-rotten nutrition bar she'd found yesterday didn't count. She'd given it all to Astrid. "Here," she whispered, pulling the last protein wafer from her pocket. 30 credits on the black market. A single meal or 1 more day for a Velvari child. Astrid's silver hair was matted with grime. Her purple skin dulled. But her eyes, those vibrant violet eyes, burned with a fierce intelligence that mirrored their mother's. "You didn't eat yesterday." "I ate," Thea lied, the words catching in her parched throat. "No, you didn't. I watched. Eat the wafer, Thea. You need it more. You're bigger." The irony was a bitter taste. Yes, she was bigger. Her adult Velvari metabolism demanded 3 times Astrid's nutrients, which was precisely why she hadn't eaten in 4 days. "Please," Thea urged, her desperation finally breaking through. Astrid took the wafer. As her sister ate, Thea closed her eyes, letting memories flood in. The marble halls of Silkfall, their father's pride, their mother's laughter echoing through rooms worth planets, the scent of Velvari spice bread. Then, the darkness. The door exploding inward, men in black armor, her father's warning shout silenced by a plasma bolt, her mother pushing Astrid behind the couch, screaming for Thea to run. The plasma bolt meant for Astrid. Thea's instinctive lunge, the searing pain, the metallic taste of her own blood. 3, maybe 4 bolts. She'd lost count. She'd lived. Lived long enough to drag Astrid through service tunnels to reach an emergency transport. Lived long enough to watch everything they knew burn. Victor Draven had been at the memorial, tears streaming down his handsome face, speaking of his dear friend Tloyan and the tragedy. So helpful with the paperwork, so understanding about the sudden crippling debts, so generous in allowing the girls to relocate rather than face imprisonment. And now he was here, on Grimhold, watching them slowly starve from his penthouse window. She'd seen him yesterday, binoculars in hand. He'd waved. "I know what to do," Astrid announced suddenly, jolting Thea from her reverie. "What?" "The slave traders on level 5, they buy people, right? Humans have all the food machines. If I can get one to buy me..." "Absolutely not." Thea tried to stand, but her legs buckled. "We're not that desperate." "Yes, we are. Look at you. You can barely stand. We'll find another way." "What other way?" Astrid's voice cracked. "Nobody will hire us because we're weak. Nobody will help us because we're Velvari, and you're going to die if you don't eat soon." "I'm not going to die." "Stop lying to me," Astrid shouted, looking older than 8. "I'm not stupid. I know what happens when you don't eat. Mom told me about the famines on Silkfall, about how people just stopped." Thea reached for her sister, but Astrid stepped back. "Fine," the little girl said, her voice chilling Thea to the bone. "You stay here. Rest. I'll find something." Astrid was gone, a small form vanishing into the maze of corridors. Thea tried to follow, but her legs gave out. She slumped against the wall, her vision darkening. "Please," she whispered to the empty air, "please don't let her do anything stupid." Astrid had seen the bar before. Everyone knew Murphy's last drop. Even Draven's men didn't cause trouble there. Safest place on the station. Plus, she'd heard the owner was human, a big human. Big meant rich, right? Only rich people could afford to eat enough to get big. She pushed through the door, mustering all the authority her 8-year-old frame could manage. The bar went silent. Dozens of eyes, human, Skarn, Drillaxian, others she couldn't identify, turned to stare. "I need the fattest, ugliest human here," she announced, her voice only trembling a little. "I want to sell myself. My sister's going to die if she doesn't eat soon. And humans have all the food machines. So somebody needs to buy me right now." The silence stretched. Then a harsh, barking laugh. "Kid," said the massive human behind the bar, setting down his glass. "We don't do slavery here. Also, I'm the only human here tonight, and I'm not fat. I'm just large-framed." Astrid marched up to the bar, standing on tiptoes. He was even bigger up close, not fat, but built like an old earth bear. His face wasn't handsome. A broken nose, a scar over his eyebrow, but his eyes were kind. "You're perfect," she declared, pointing at his stomach. "You got a big tummy, which means you're rich, and your face is kind of funny looking, which means you won't try any weird stuff. Buy me. I can clean things. I can fix stuff. I'm really good at fixing stuff. My sister needs food and medicine." The door burst open behind her. Thea stumbled through, her legs giving out. "Astrid," she managed, barely a whisper. "Don't!" Then she collapsed. The big human moved with startling speed, vaulting the bar and catching Thea before she hit the floor. Up close, Thea's purple skin was almost gray, her breathing shallow. "Don't touch my sister!" Astrid shrieked, panic making her voice shrill. "Don't you dare!" "Kid, she's in metabolic shutdown," the human said, calm but urgent. "Velvari metabolism, right? She needs protein synthesis now." He glanced around. "Tommy, watch the bar. Nobody follows us upstairs." 3 teeth. Tommy, nodding rapidly, took position. The human lifted Thea like she weighed nothing, heading for a door marked "Private." "Don't touch her," Astrid repeated, her small legs pumping to keep up. "If you hurt her, I'll... You'll what?" he asked, not unkindly, as he climbed narrow stairs. "Call the authorities? The same ones who work for Draven?" Astrid's breath caught. "You know who we are?" "I know. You're 2 Velvari kids with expensive genetic markers trying to survive in the cheapest part of the station," he said, shouldering open a door at the top. "And I know Victor Draven's been spending a lot of time lately staring out his penthouse window with binoculars. Doesn't take a genius to connect the dots." The apartment was plain but clean. He set Thea gently on a worn couch, then pulled a military-grade protein synthesizer from a closet. It cost more than most ships. "How do you have that?" Astrid gasped. "Let's focus on saving your sister first. Questions later." He programmed the machine, thick fingers, surprisingly delicate. "What's her metabolic baseline? Any allergies?" I don't know the numbers. She's 24, standard height for a Velvari female. No allergies except to earth shellfish, but that's not really relevant. And why am I telling you this?" The words tumbled out. "Because you're scared. And your brain's trying to help by providing information," he said, drawing a silver packet from the synthesizer. "It's a human thing, but apparently Velvari do it too. Help me sit her up." Together, they propped Thea. He tore open the packet, revealing a thick almond-scented paste. "Concentrated protein, balanced for Velvari physiology," he explained, helping Thea swallow small amounts. "Slow and steady or her system will reject it." "You know about Velvari physiology?" "I know enough." He continued feeding Thea, patient and methodical. "What's your name, kid?" "Astrid." "She's Thea. I'm Kevin. Kevin Murphy." "That's a boring name." "Thanks. I picked it myself." Despite everything, Astrid almost smiled. "Is she going to be okay?" "Yeah. Couple hours of this, some actual food, she'll be fine." Kevin glanced at Astrid. "When's the last time you ate?" "I had a wafer today, most of one." "And before that?" Astrid didn't answer. Kevin sighed, pulling out a candy bar. "Here, it's not specific, but it won't hurt you. Mostly sugar and protein." "I don't take charity," Astrid said, stomach cramping at the sight of food. "It's not charity. You're going to help me clean the bar later. Consider this an advance on your wages." "Really?" "No. But if it makes you feel better to pretend, I'm good with that." Astrid took the bar, devouring it. Best thing she'd ever tasted. Thea's eyelids fluttered. "Astrid," her voice was weak. "Don't you ever scare me like that again." Astrid threw herself at her sister. "I'm sorry, baby. So sorry. You're stupid. You gave me all the food. So stupid." "I know." Kevin stood, giving them space. "I'll make something more substantial. Kitchen's through there. Bathroom's the door on the left." As he moved to leave, Astrid's voice stopped. "Him. You're not that ugly," she said solemnly. "When you're being nice, you're actually almost okay looking." Kevin's laugh was deep and genuine. "Thanks, kid. Nicest thing anyone said all week." As he headed to the kitchen, Astrid curled up beside Thea. Thea was still pale, thin, but breathing steadily. "You really went to find someone to buy you?" Thea whispered. "I said I wanted the fattest, ugliest human." "Astrid, what? It worked, didn't it? He's not really that fat either, just solid. Like a wall that serves drinks." From the kitchen came clattering pans and Kevin's voice. "I can hear you." "Good," Astrid called back. "Your face is still funny looking." "Astrid, stop insulting the man who saved my life." "He knows I don't mean it. Right, Kevin?" "Kid, as long as you're safe and your sister's okay, you can call me whatever you want." Astrid settled deeper, feeling something she hadn't felt in weeks. Safe. A bar run by a giant human with a funny face and a military-grade protein synthesizer in his closet. It shouldn't feel safe, but it did. "Hey, Kevin," she called. "Yeah? Thanks for not buying me." "No problem, kid. Though technically you do owe me for that candy bar." "How much?" "Let's see. At current market rates, accounting for inflation and interest, about 1,000 credits." "What?" "Kidding. It was free. Go to sleep, kid. You're safe here." And for the first time since their parents died, Astrid believed it. 3 weeks blurred into a routine that felt like safety. Thea worked evenings, learning from Kevin the subtle art of reading customers. Who was trouble, who was harmless, who was one drink away from either. Astrid, meanwhile, transformed her cookie business into a small empire, branching into homework help and protection services, mostly threatening to tell Kevin if anyone caused problems. "You know she's running a protection racket," Thea said one evening, watching Astrid collect credits from a nervous Praxian trader. "She learned from the best," Kevin replied, then caught Thea's eye. "I meant you." "Sure you did." They stood close behind the bar, close enough for Thea to feel his warmth. 3 weeks of almost moments, hands brushing while passing glasses, conversations that went deeper than intended. "Thea," he started, but the door opened. It wasn't Draven, but his lieutenant, Core, a scarred Drillaxian specializing in making problems disappear. "Ladies, gentlemen, and variations thereof," Core announced. "Mr. Draven is hosting a celebration tomorrow night. The Telosian trade routes have been officially transferred to his control." Thea's vision went red. Those routes were her father's life work. "Isn't that interesting?" Kevin said, his tone dangerously mild. "And he felt the need to announce this here because he wanted to extend a special invitation to your employees." Core's smile was all teeth. "Particularly the purple-skinned beauties. Mr. Draven is very interested in their attendance." "We're busy," Thea managed, teeth clenched. "What a shame! Mr. Draven will be so disappointed. He had such specific plans for entertainment." Core pulled out a holo projector, activating it. The image made Thea's blood freeze, her parents' graves, fresh Velvari morning roses placed upon them. "He visits them often," Core said casually. "Pays his respects. Such a tragedy. Their deaths. So many things can happen on a station like this. Accidents, disappearances." His eyes found Astrid, frozen at her homework station. Children are especially vulnerable. The crack of glass made everyone turn. Kevin had crushed the tumbler in his hand, blood and whiskey mixing on the bar. "Careful," Core said. "Wouldn't want you to hurt yourself or make any rash decisions that might affect your peaceful existence." He left before Kevin could respond. The bar was silent. Kevin stood perfectly still, blood dripping from his hand. "Tommy," he said, "close the bar." "But it's only—" Three-Teeth Tommy, who had survived 40 years in the underworld, knew the sound of death when he heard it. "Everyone out! Bar's closed!" The exodus was swift. Minutes later, only Thea, Astrid, and Kevin remained. "He threatened Astrid," Thea whispered. "Yes." "In your bar." "Yes." "What are you going to do?" Kevin looked at her and Thea saw it. The bartender falling away, revealing the man who'd once made the galaxy tremble. "What I should have done 3 weeks ago." He moved to a hidden panel behind the bar, revealing an arsenal that would make a military squad jealous. "Take Astrid upstairs. Lock the door. Don't come out until I get back." "Kevin, you can't just—" "I spent 6 years pretending to be something I'm not," he said, checking a weapon she didn't recognize. "A peaceful man, a simple bartender, but that's not who I am, Thea. I'm a man who built an empire on the bodies of those who threatened what was mine." "We're not yours," she said, but the protest sounded weak even to her. He crossed to her in 2 strides, cupping her face with surprising gentleness. "Aren't you?" The kiss was everything their weeks of almost moments had promised. Heat, desperation, and something that might have been love if either had been brave enough to name it. "Kevin," she breathed when they parted. "Take Astrid upstairs," he repeated. "Please don't die," she said. "Wasn't planning on it, I mean it. If you die, I'll find a way to bring you back just to kill you myself." Noted. Astrid appeared beside them, having watched the whole exchange. "This is disgusting and you're both gross, but also if you hurt him, I'll never forgive you," she told Kevin. "Seriously." "If I hurt who?" "Mr. Draven. He's mean, and he scared me, and he made Thea cry when she thinks I'm not looking." She hugged Kevin's leg fiercely. "But you can't die because who would help me with math?" The Skarn assassin seemed pretty good at it. "His writing is terrible. All those claws." Kevin knelt to her level. "I'll be back, kid. Promise." "That's what Daddy said." The words hung in the air. Kevin pulled her into a proper hug. "I'm not your dad," he said quietly. "But I'm also not going anywhere. Some promises don't get broken." As Thea led Astrid upstairs, she looked back once. Kevin stood in his bar, surrounded by weapons and shadows, looking like what he'd always been. Dangerous. "Is he really going to fight Mr. Draven?" Astrid asked in a small voice. "I don't think it's going to be a fight," Thea replied, locking the door. "What is it then?" Thea thought of Kevin's eyes, the careful way he'd selected his weapons, the absolute certainty in his movements. An execution. The bar had been closed for 3 hours when Victor Draven arrived with his 10 bodyguards. Kevin had spent the time in the dark, polishing the same glass, the arsenal unused. Thea watched from the stairs, Astrid peeking out despite instructions to stay in the apartment. They heard the vehicles, heavy footsteps, the deliberate knock that wasn't asking permission. Kevin unlocked the door, stepped back, and resumed his position. "Murphy," Draven said, entering like he owned the place. "I heard you closed early. That's unlike you. Bad for business." "Sometimes a man needs to think," Kevin said, still polishing. "About what?" Draven's bodyguards spread out, 10 trained killers armed with enough firepower to level a city block. Kevin seemed unconcerned. "About promises. About the difference between choosing peace and being forced into it." Philosophy from a bartender. Draven laughed, the sound echoing in the empty bar. How unexpected. Speaking of unexpected, I came to discuss your employees, the Velvari girls. They're not for discussion. Oh, but they are. Draven pulled out a data pad, screen glowing with official documents. You see, their father owed me significant debts. Gambling, mostly. Terrible habit. These documents clearly show you're the bad man. Everyone turned. Astrid stood on the stairs, her small face twisted with rage and recognition. Kevin, it's him. It's the bad man who hurt Mommy and Daddy. The bar went absolutely still. Kevin's hands stopped. Astrid, Thea hissed, trying to pull her back. No! Astrid struggled free. I remember his voice. He was there. He was laughing while Mommy screamed. Draven's polished smile cracked. Children have such vivid imaginations. You wore a black mask, but I saw your ring. Astrid pointed at Draven's hand, where a distinctive gold signet ring, a dragon eating its own tail, caught the light. You're the one who shot them. The silence was deafening. Even Draven's bodyguard shifted uncomfortably. Child murder was bad for business. Victor, Kevin said, and something in his voice made everyone take an involuntary step back. Everyone except Draven, too arrogant or too stupid to recognize danger. You've been coming to my bar for 3 years. Is this going somewhere? You've sat in that corner booth, made your deals, conducted your business. Kevin set the glass down with deliberate care. And in all that time, you never wondered why even you followed the rules here? Your rules are a joke, Draven scoffed. No fighting in the bar? What are you going to do? Throw me out. I own this level. I own the security forces. I own... You own nothing, Kevin interrupted. You're a small man who mistakes fear for respect, violence for strength. You tortured children, murdered their parents, and then you sat in my bar and watched them starve for your entertainment. So what? Even if that brat's fantasy was true, which it isn't, what are you going to do about it? You're one man. I have 10 of the best. Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin said, raising his voice slightly, I'm going to need you to step outside. Nobody moved. That wasn't a request. The lead bodyguard, a scarred veteran, looked at Kevin. The way he stood, the complete absence of fear, his hands resting on the bar like a pianist about to perform. Boss, the bodyguard said quietly, we should go. What? Draven turned on him. I'm paying you to... You're not paying us enough for this. The bodyguard was already backing toward the door. That's the shepherd! The name rippled through the room. 2 more bodyguards fled. The shepherd is dead, Draven insisted, sweat beading on his forehead. The shepherd disappeared, Kevin corrected. There's a difference. More bodyguards fled. Within seconds, only Draven and 3 of his most loyal, or most stupid, remained. The rules! Draven's voice climbed toward panic. No fighting in the bar. It's your rule. My bar. Kevin stepped around the counter, each movement deliberate. My rules. He rolled his shoulders, a fighter preparing for work. And I just changed them. The first bodyguard went for his weapon. Kevin's hand found a bottle of cheap whiskey on a nearby table. It shattered against the man's temple before his gun cleared its holster. He dropped like a stone. The second tried to flank. Kevin caught his wrist, twisted until bones snapped like dry kindling, then drove an elbow into his throat. The man made a sound like a broken pipe and collapsed. The third was smarter. He ran. That left Draven alone with a man he'd fundamentally misjudged. Please, Draven started, but Kevin's hand closed around his throat, lifting him off the ground with disturbing ease. Let me tell you about honor among thieves, Kevin said conversationally, as if he weren't crushing a man's windpipe. We had codes, rules, lines we didn't cross. Children were off limits. Families of rivals were off limits. You broke every rule. He threw Draven across the room. The man hit a table, wood splintering. You want to know why I walked away from the Crimson Throne? Kevin continued, advancing on the crawling figure. Because I was becoming something I didn't like. Someone who solved problems with violence first, words second. Draven tried to stand. Kevin's boot found his knee. The crack echoed through the bar. But you, Victor, Kevin knelt beside the screaming man. You made me realize something. Some people don't deserve words. Some people only understand violence. The authorities will find evidence of every crime you've committed, Kevin said, pulling out a data pad of his own. Every family you've destroyed. Every child you've hurt. My old network is quite thorough. Your accounts are already frozen. Your properties are being seized. Your allies are receiving copies of recordings where you discuss betraying them. Draven's eyes went wide. You can't! I built an empire that spanned a third of the galaxy. You think I forgot how to destroy someone? Kevin stood. You're done, Victor. Your criminal empire, your reputation, your life. All of it ends tonight. You're going to kill me. Kevin looked up at the stairs where Astrid watched, Thea's hands on her shoulders. No, he said finally. Death would be a mercy. You're going to live, Victor. You're going to live knowing that everything you built was destroyed by a bartender. You're going to live knowing that those girls you tortured are going to thrive. And you're going to live knowing that if you ever come near them again, I'll forget my promise not to kill you. He dragged Draven to the door, threw him into the alley where his unconscious bodyguards were starting to stir. Run, Kevin said simply. Draven crawled. His broken knee make actual running impossible. Kevin stood in his doorway, then turned back. Thea and Astrid had come downstairs. Thea looked at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Astrid marched up and kicked him in the shin. Ow! What was that for? You scared me, Astrid said, then hugged his waist. I thought you were going to die. Takes more than some hired thugs to kill me, kid. That was really violent, she mumbled into his shirt. Yeah. Sorry you had to see that. It was also really cool. Did you really run a whole crime thing a long time ago? Are you going to do it again? Kevin looked at Thea over Astrid's head. She moved closer, her hand finding his. No, he said. I've got a bar to run and employees who apparently need constant supervision. We don't need supervision, Astrid protested. We need protection. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. Protection means you beat up bad guys for us. Supervision means you won't let me stay up past 9. Still 9 o'clock bedtime. This is tyranny. 8 months later, the morning news feed played on the bar's main screen, reporting on the ongoing trials of Victor Draven. 63 counts of murder, 200 counts of fraud, enough financial crimes to keep lawyers busy for decades. Kevin turned it off. Old news. The bar hadn't opened yet, but regulars were gathering outside. Word had spread. Murphy's last drop wasn't just neutral ground, it was protected ground. The shepherd might have walked away from his empire, but he hadn't walked away from his reputation. You're doing it again, Thea said, appearing beside him. She wore one of his shirts, loose over her purple skin, silver hair messy from sleep. Doing what? Polishing that same glass. You've been at it for 20 minutes. Kevin looked down. She was right. It was the same glass he'd been polishing the night everything changed. It's therapeutic, he said. It's obsessive. She took the glass, set it aside, then wrapped her arms around his waist. The trials are going well. Our family's fortune has been restored. Astrid hasn't tried to sell anyone cookies in almost a week. She's planning something bigger, I can feel it. Probably. Thea looked up at him. Any regrets? About what? Walking away from your empire for this. She gestured at the bar, empty, but full of promise. Never. He kissed her forehead, then her nose, then her lips. Although I do sometimes regret letting Astrid set up her homework help business in the corner booth. It's educational. She's teaching alien children how to run protection rackets successfully. The Praxian kid made 40 credits yesterday. That's not the point. Kevin, Astrid's voice echoed from upstairs. Thea is being gross in your shirt again. How does she even know? Thea muttered. I have eyes, and you're not subtle. Kevin laughed, the sound filling the bar. Come on down, kid. Breakfast is ready. Astrid appeared moments later, dressed, carrying a data pad covered in business plans. Can I have coffee? You're 8. 8 3/4. Still no. This is tyranny. I know. Kevin ruffled her hair. Eat your breakfast, tyrant. As Astrid grudgingly ate, explaining her new venture, interspecies translation services, Kevin found himself polishing that glass again. 6 years ago, he'd walked away from an empire for peace. He'd found something better, a family worth protecting, a woman worth loving, a purpose worth fighting for. The door chimed. Three-teeth Tommy shuffled in. Boss, he said, then nodded to Thea. Boss's wife. We're not married, Tommy, Thea said, purple skin darkening. Yet, Kevin added, earning an elbow to the ribs. Right. Anyway, there's a kid outside. Says she heard this is where you go when you got no place else. Kevin exchanged glances with Thea. What species? Corax, maybe 9 years old, been sleeping in the ventilation shafts from the look of her. Bring her in, Thea said before Kevin could respond. We're not a charity, Kevin started. No, Astrid interrupted, looking up from her plans. We're a family, and families help people. That's what you taught me. Kevin looked at his girls, because that's what they were now, and sighed. Fine, but she follows the rules. No fighting in the bar, Astrid and Thea said in unison. That's rule number 1. What's rule number 2? Astrid's cookies are worth whatever she says they are, Astrid said proudly. That's not rule 3, Thea interrupted, wrapping her arms around him. Kevin's bar, Kevin's rules. But also rule 4, Astrid added. Family protects family. Kevin Murphy looked at his bar, his woman, his kid sister-in-law who'd become like a daughter, and realized he'd never really walked away from anything. He'd just been walking toward this moment all along. Tommy, he called. Bring the kid in and set her up with breakfast. Sure thing, Shepard. It's just Kevin. Tommy grinned. Sure thing. Just Kevin. As the door opened to admit another lost soul seeking sanctuary, Kevin went back to polishing his glass. Some things changed. Some things stayed the same. But in Murphy's last drop, everyone followed the rules. His bar, his rules, his family. He wouldn't trade it for the galaxy 10 years later. The Gathion's head hit my bar with the exact same crack Kevin's victims used to make. Some things I'd learned were genetic by adoption. Gentlemen, ladies, and assorted life forms, I announced, not bothering to look up from the manifest I was reviewing. You know the drill, 2 minutes outside, drinks are on the house when you return. The evacuation was even faster than in Kevin's day, probably because everyone knew I didn't give warnings twice. Murphy's last drop had grown. What used to be a single bar now sprawled across 3 levels of Grimhold Station, with satellite locations on 12 other worlds. We employed 43 former assassins, 16 reformed pirates, and one continuously terrified accountant who kept trying to make our books look legitimate. The remaining Gathions, there were 6 this time, looked at their unconscious leader, then at me. I was 18 now, still purple-skinned and silver-haired. But I'd inherited Kevin's philosophy on conflict resolution and Thea's strategic mind. "Little girl," one growled, "you think because you play bartender?" I vaulted the bar, a move Kevin had taught me when I was 12, and introduced his face to my knee. The crack of his exoskeleton breaking was deeply satisfying. "I don't play anything," I said conversationally, catching the third one's throat punch and redirecting it into his companion's solar plexus. "I run the largest criminal enterprise in this sector. Maintain peace between 47 different syndicates and still make time to help my 5 little siblings with their homework." The fourth one pulled a plasma blade. I sighed, grabbed a bottle of Kevin's favorite whiskey, the expensive stuff we kept for special occasions, and shattered it across his skull. "Kevin's going to be pissed about the whiskey," I muttered, using the broken bottle to encourage the 5th Gathion to reconsider his life choices. The 6th one, the smart one, was already running. 2 minutes and 17 seconds. Not my best time, but respectable. I dragged the bodies outside. Kevin had taught me proper disposal etiquette and returned to find everyone filing back in like nothing had happened. "Apologies for the interruption," I said, pulling out a fresh glass to polish. Another genetic trait by adoption. "Senator Lynn, your bribe money is on the table. Don't forget to launder it properly this time. The authorities are getting suspicious." "Yes, Miss Murphy," he said quickly. I wasn't actually a Murphy legally, but sometime around year 3 of living with Kevin and Thea, everyone just started calling me that. Now, the name carried weight across the galaxy. "Astrid!" a small voice called from the family entrance. Mira, age 7, Kevin and Thea's oldest daughter, bounded into the bar. She had Thea's purple skin, but Kevin's brown eyes, a combination that somehow worked perfectly. "Did you beat up more bad guys?" she asked excitedly. "Just a few. Can I watch next time? When you're older?" "That's what you always say." "That's because you're always younger than older." She scrunched her nose, a gesture pure Kevin. "That doesn't make sense." "Talk to your dad about it." "Where are the others?" "Mom's teaching Alex and David how to throw knives in the training room. Luna and Violet are helping Dad with inventory." 5 kids in 10 years. Kevin liked to joke that he was building his own syndicate. Thea would hit him every time, but she'd be smiling. Alex and David, the twins, were 9, and already showing signs of inheriting Kevin's tactical mind. Luna, 5, had Thea's grace and my entrepreneurial spirit. She'd been selling protection services to her kindergarten classmates. Violet, 3, was still determining her criminal specialty. "Tell your mom I'll be there for dinner," I said, ruffling Mira's hair. "You're always late for dinner." "I'm always exactly on time for dessert." She laughed and scampered off. I turned back to my bar, my empire really, and found 3-Teeth Tommy, now No-Teeth Tommy, after an unfortunate incident with an Araxian, staring at me with something like awe. "What?" I asked. "Nothing, boss. Just, you remind me of him. The old days, when the shepherd ran things. Kevin never ran things like this." "No," Tommy agreed. "You're scarier." I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Good." The door chimed. Victor Draven's nephew walked in. Apparently, stupidity was genetic, too. He'd been making noise about reclaiming his uncle's empire, not understanding that his uncle's empire had been absorbed, digested, and repurposed into my organization years ago. "Miss Murphy," he said, trying to sound intimidating. "We need to discuss territory." "No," I said, going back to polishing my glass. "We don't. I have 50 men outside. I have 16 snipers on neighboring buildings, 3 explosives experts who've already wired your vehicles, and a sister who's been begging me to let her test her new poison on someone." That was Luna. She didn't actually have poison, but he didn't need to know that. "More importantly, you're in my bar, which means you follow my rules." "Your rules are—" I moved not as fast as Kevin. I was smaller, lighter, but more efficiently. The nephew hit the floor before he could finish his sentence, his nose making a satisfying crunch against my knee. "My bar," I said, standing over him. "My rules." His men scattered. They always did. "You know," said a familiar voice from the doorway, "I used to worry about leaving you in charge." Kevin stood there, older now, gray threading through his hair, but still massive, still radiating that particular brand of contained violence that made smart people nervous. "Used to?" I asked, hauling the nephew outside. "Now I worry about what happens when you decide this station is too small." "Who says I haven't already decided that?" He laughed, that deep rumble that still made me feel safe. "Fair point. The Andromeda system? Mine as of last Tuesday. The Vega trade routes? Negotiating should be done by Thursday." Christ, kid. You're going to own the galaxy before you're 20. 25, I corrected. I have a 10-year plan. Of course you do. He moved behind the bar. His bar originally, mine now, ours always, and pulled out the good whiskey. "You broke my favorite bottle." They were being rude. Fair enough. He poured 2 glasses, sliding one to me. "The authorities are starting to notice. Not local, galactic. They're sending someone." I shrugged. "Let them come. We own half of them anyway." "This one's different. Some idealistic kid fresh from the academy. Grandfather was a war hero or something." Idealists are easy. You just have to break their ideals. Kevin studied me over his glass. "Sometimes you scare me. You know that." "Good," I said, echoing Tommy. "Means I'm doing it right." The door chimed again. Thea entered, the twins flanking her like tiny bodyguards. Even after 5 kids in 10 years, she was still stunning. Kevin still got that dopey look every time he saw her. "Family dinner," she announced. "Non-negotiable." "I have a meeting with—" Non-negotiable. I sighed but smiled. "Yes, ma'am, and stop beating people up in front of the children." Mira wasn't watching. She was recording through the window. "That's actually very enterprising of her. She gets it from you," Thea said, but she was smiling. 15 minutes, don't be late." As my family headed upstairs, my real empire, the one that actually mattered, I looked around Murphy's last drop. Every glass, every table, every blood stain I'd failed to completely clean told a story. 10 years ago, I'd burst through these doors demanding someone buy me. Now, I owned everything the light touched and half of what it didn't. Not bad for the kid who used to sell terrible cookies. I stood there, polishing the same glass Kevin had taught me with, thinking about how much had changed, how much I had changed. Meanwhile, hundreds of light years away in a sterile briefing room that couldn't have been more different from my blood-stained bar, a young man was about to receive an assignment that would change both our lives. His name was James Crawford. He didn't know me yet, but he would. The briefing room at Galactic Enforcement Headquarters was sterile, white, and smelled of disinfectant. I sat ramrod straight, my uniform perfect, my record spotless. 18 years old and the youngest detective in agency history. Grandfather would have been proud. Crawford, Director Harlan said, sliding a data pad across the table. First assignment, consider it a test. I opened the file and felt my blood run cold. The image showed a young woman, purple-skinned with silver hair, standing over a bar covered in blood. The bodies around her had been identified as some of the sector's most wanted criminals. Astrid Murphy, Director Harlan said, also known as the New Shepherd, 18 years old, runs approximately 40% of the organized crime in this sector. 40% that we know of. Could be more. She's efficient. I studied the file. Orphaned at 8, taken in by Kevin Murphy, formerly known as the original Shepherd, now controlled an empire that made the old Crimson Throne look like a lemonade stand. Your assignment is to infiltrate her organization, find evidence, bring her down. Sir, with respect, shouldn't someone more experienced? She's 18, Crawford. Just like you. We figured you'd understand her better than our older agents. He leaned back. Plus, your grandfather's reputation still carries weight. The Murphy name has history with military honor. She might respect that. I wanted to point out that the Murphy name she knew probably had more to do with systematic violence than military honor, but I kept quiet. Grandfather had always said to observe first, speak second. When do I leave? Tomorrow. You'll be posing as a bouncer looking for work. Our intel says Murphy's is always hiring because people keep dying because she keeps expanding. Director Harlan stood. Crawford, I won't lie to you. 12 agents have tried to infiltrate her organization. None reported back. What happened to them? Unknown. They just disappeared. I swallowed hard. Understood, sir. That night, I studied everything we had on Astrid Murphy. Security footage of her taking down 6 Gathions without breaking a sweat. Financial records showing a network that sprawled across the galaxy. And one image that stopped me cold. Her laughing at what appeared to be a family dinner, surrounded by children and the most feared criminals in the known universe. She looked normal, happy even. Dangerous people weren't supposed to look happy. I closed the file and stared at my reflection in the dark window. Grandfather had fought real monsters in the war. Aliens that ate entire colonies. Machines that harvested human souls. One 18-year-old purple girl who ran a bar couldn't be worse than that. Could she? Tomorrow, I'd find out. If you want more deep dives into fascinating worlds or help crafting your next compelling narrative, subscribe and hit the notification bell. You don't want to miss what we uncover next.